Welcome, everyone, and thank you for joining us today at the Center for Behavioral Emergency and Addiction Research. Our session is focused on anxiety and post-traumatic stress disorder in law enforcement. My goal is to help us think about these conditions not as rare or shameful, but as common and treatable realities that many first responders experience. By the end of our time together, you'll be able to recognize signs of anxiety in yourself and your colleagues, understand how PTSD can present in law enforcement, know when and how to seek support. If we can normalize the conversation and speak openly, we can reduce stigma, and stigma is often one of the biggest barriers to seeking care. As first responders, we already know this job carries unique challenges. You face situations most people never will: trauma, violence, high stakes decisions, and long hours. We also know something else. First responders are more likely to experience mental health or substance use issues, but less likely to seek treatment. Why? Often it's about stigma, self perception, or the belief that asking for help is a sign of weakness. But silence can make things harder in the long run. When we focus specifically on law enforcement, the numbers are sobering. Research shows about 30% of officers report symptoms of depression and anxiety, yet only about 3% report seeking help. Another study with nearly 4,000 officers found that 44% experienced psychological distress in the past month, and nearly a quarter described it as moderate to severe. So, this isn't a rare issue. Anxiety and depression are widespread in law enforcement. It's part of the lived reality for many officers. Recognizing this prevalence helps us understand that if you or a peer struggle, you're not alone. We can't have a conversation about mental health in law enforcement without addressing suicide. Research shows officers are at a higher risk of dying by suicide than in the line of duty. In fact, one national survey found 228 officer suicides in a single year, compared to 172 line of duty deaths. That statistic should stop us in our tracks. So, why is the risk so high? First, officers face repeated exposure to trauma, car accidents, violence, loss, and high stress calls. Over time, the nervous system adapts by becoming desensitized, but that can also mean we carry trauma longer than we realize. The hero complex can make it difficult to admit vulnerability. The culture often emphasizes toughness, which can leave officers feeling like they can't ask for help. And of course, fear of stigma or isolation can keep people silent. Many worry, what if my peers think I can't do my job? Understanding these factors is key to breaking down the barriers. Stress is actually part of how our nervous system is wired to keep us alive. It takes in information from the environment and activities the body's survival activates the body's survival response. Your heart rate goes up, your breathing quickens, your muscles get ready for action. Your body is preparing you to fight, flee, or freeze. And importantly, it records what happened so it can respond even faster next time. That's how we've survived as a species. This survival response is often called fight, flight, or freeze. Fight. Your body prepares to confront the threat. Flight. Your system is primed to run and freeze. Sometimes the body shuts down, almost like hitting a pause button. Physically, you might notice your heart racing, pupils dilating, or sweating. At the same time, non essential functions like digestion, appetite, and sleep shut down. Normally, once the threat is over, the body resets. But when stress is prolonged and repeated, the system never gets to fully turn off. That's when trauma can start to take hold. When mental health professionals diagnose anxiety or PTSD, they look at five factors: deviance, thoughts or behaviors that differ significantly from cultural norms; dysfunction, difficulty functioning in work relationships or daily life; distress, emotional suffering; danger, risk of harm to self or others; duration, how long the symptoms last, often 6 months or more for anxiety disorders. These criteria help distinguish between normal stress and a diagnosable condition. Anxiety shows up in different ways. It's not always just feeling nervous. Physical symptoms, restlessness, muscle tension, headaches, stomach issues, sweating, racing heart. Cognitive symptoms, difficulty concentrating, intrusive worries, constant what if thoughts. Emotional symptoms, irritability, dread, fear or feeling on edge. Behavioral symptoms, avoidance, procrastination, pulling away from family or friends, or making more mistakes on the job. When these symptoms persist and interfere with daily functioning, they can indicate an anxiety disorder. These symptoms don't show up in isolation. They often feed each other. If you're anxious, you might struggle to sleep. Lack of sleep then makes you more irritable and more reactive on the job. Muscle tension can cause pain, and pain can fuel even more anxiety. It's a cycle that builds on itself. That's why early recognition is so important, so we can interrupt the cycle before it becomes overwhelming. Let's talk specifically about generalized anxiety disorder, or GAD. GAD is diagnosed when someone has excessive worry on most days for at least 6 months. That worry feels uncontrollable, like your mind just won't shut off. Common symptoms include restlessness, fatigue, poor concentration, irritability, muscle tension, and trouble sleeping. Most importantly, these symptoms cause real impairment. They interfere with your work, your relationships, your daily life. For law enforcement officers, that can mean difficulty staying focused during a call, trouble making decisions quickly, or strain on family life. Another form of anxiety you may encounter is the panic attack. A panic attack is a sudden surge of intense fear or discomfort that peaks within minutes. Symptoms include pounding or racing heart, sweating or trembling, shortness of breath or choking sensations, chest pain or tightness, dizziness, chills, or numbness, a sense of losing control or fear of dying. If panic attacks happen repeatedly and you start to worry about having the next one, that's called panic disorder. It's important to know panic attacks can also appear in PTSD, social anxiety, phobias, or even medical conditions like asthma or thyroid problems. Our brains and bodies are built to remember danger. That's adaptive. It keeps us alive. But with PTSD, the survival response gets stuck in overdrive. Even when the threat is gone, The brain and body act like it's still happening. A car backfiring can feel like a gunshot. The smell of smoke can bring back a fire. Officers may experience flashbacks or nightmares, avoiding reminders of the trauma, persistent negative thoughts or emotions like guilt or anger, hypervigilance, jumpiness, irritability, or chronic sleep problems. When the nervous system stays locked in this state, it wears us down emotionally, physically, and mentally. That's why recognizing and addressing PTSD is so important. Post traumatic stress disorder, or PTSD, was considered to be a type of anxiety disorder in earlier versions of the American Psychiatric Association's Diagnostic and Statistical Manual of Mental Disorders. But in 2013, PTSD was reclassified as its own condition. It describes a range of emotional reactions caused by exposure to either death or near death circumstances, such as fires, floods, earthquakes, shootings, assault, automobile accidents, or wars, or to events that threaten one's own or another person's physical well being. The traumatic event is re experienced with fear of feelings or helplessness or horror and may appear in thoughts and dreams. To diagnose PTSD, clinicians look for symptoms in four clusters: intrusion, unwanted memories, flashbacks, nightmares; avoidance, staying away from reminders, people, places, conversations; negative mood or beliefs, guilt, shame, detachment, loss of interest, difficulty feeling positive emotions; arousal, hypervigilance, irritability, angry outburst, difficulty concentrating, sleep problems. These symptoms need to persist for at least a month and cause real distress or impairment. One way to understand stress is through the stress continuum model. Think of stress as a spectrum with four zones: green, ready and resilient, you're functioning well, feeling in control; yellow, reacting, you may be more irritable, anxious, or distracted; orange, injured, you're struggling, sleep problems, intrusive thoughts, avoidance; red, ill. This is when symptoms are severe, like PTSD or depression. We all move along this spectrum at different times. The key is to notice when you or a colleague are in the orange zone. That's when early support can make the biggest difference before things worsen. Another helpful framework for peer support is the Stress First Aid (SFA) model. It was developed for high risk professions like the military, fire, and law enforcement. The model involves 7 core actions: check for signs of stress or injury, coordinate, get additional help if needed, cover, make sure the person is safe, calm, help lower the stress in the moment, connect, link them to peers, family, or community, competence, help rebuild skills and confidence, confidence, remind them recovery is possible. The first two, check and coordinate, are ongoing. The others are used when specific needs arise. It's also important to remember stress reactions aren't always immediate. They can surface days, weeks, or even years later. SFA helps us to be prepared, present, and supportive no matter when those needs arise. Here's a tool you can use right away and start practicing for when you might need it most. We call this progressive muscle relaxation. Here's how it works. Start with your toes. Tighten the muscles for a few seconds, then release. Move up, calves, thighs, stomach, shoulders, arms, and face, tensing each area, then letting go. This simple practice helps release physical tension and teaches your body the difference between stress and relaxation. It's especially helpful for easing muscle tightness after long shifts, and it can improve sleep quality. Another powerful tool is diaphragmatic or belly breathing. When you breathe shallowly from your chest, your body stays in fight or flight mode. But when you slow down and breathe deeply into your belly, you activate the parasympathetic nervous system, your body's built in calming system. Try it with me. Put one hand on your chest and one on your stomach. Inhale slowly so your belly rises. Then exhale even more slowly. This simple technique can help you lower your heart rate, calm your nervous system, and reset after a stressful encounter. So, when is it time to seek professional support? Some warning signs include repeated nightmares, flashbacks, or intrusive thoughts, constant hypervigilance, irritability, or insomnia, using alcohol, substances, or work as a way to avoid feelings, feeling detached from others, or like the world isn't real, struggling to function at work, in relationships, or in daily life. If these symptoms persist, it's not just stress anymore. That's when it's time to reach out for help. And remember, getting support is a sign of strength. It's how we take care of ourselves so we can keep taking care of others. As we wrap up, here's the key takeaway. Anxiety and PTSD are not signs of weakness. They are normal human responses to extraordinary stress, and they are treatable. By talking about them openly, we reduce stigma. By supporting each other, we create resilience. And by seeking help, we can ensure we can continue to serve and protect while also protecting our own well being. Please remember, check in with yourself, check in with your peers, and most importantly, don't be afraid to reach for support.